Hello, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. This is a safe space where you bring your perfectly imperfect human self, and today's video is going to be a little bit different, divergence from what I typically do, which is like to edit a lot. This is going to be more of a straight talk video, and just as a preamble, the inner Bill Burr in me, the sassy part of me, may come out in this video. I just have been having a lot of thoughts in the past few weeks, and just been feeling my body mostly not very good. Mentally, I feel fine. So I want to talk about like the past 3 weeks. I feel like I'm moving, although I'm moving very slowly. But at the same time feeling very lazy and unaccomplished. I've been having a lot of self-limiting thoughts, and I wanted to talk about what's been holding me back and also address how I deal with critics and criticism. So I hope that if you're watching this video, you clicked on the title for a reason. I say if you did for that, you're in the right place. I hope that I can help at least one or a couple of people to have morsels of advice or lessons learned from me that you can take away for your own personal life. Yeah. Now, I am waiting to order my coffee at a local drive-thru. I was going to go inside, but I wanted to record this beginning, and also need to find like a local park where I can get some quiet time. And by the way, today is the 26th, so hope you all had a wonderful day off yesterday if you didn't have to work. And yeah, that you're all having a very, more or less a happy, smooth, calm holiday season. Okay, so I got my coffee. Hi, folks. Okay. Forgot where I left off. I think I just did an intro. Yeah, so I've been having quite an interesting past 2 weeks, and what was I talking about? Okay, so I wanted to talk about things that are holding me back and how I deal with critics and criticism, especially as a YouTube small channel content creator. And I think my audience I'm thinking about is people who maybe can relate to having childhood traumas and what that experience is like as you've identified maybe the root causes of some unproductive, destructive behavior. But in any case, I am out here at a park. It's a lot busier than I had hoped, but it's really nice out and quiet, more or less. I think in terms of my mental health, it's been pretty okay. But something I have to say, thanks to, and by the way, I'm going to be rambling a lot. And this is where something I never really talked about, but I've been looking to try to get testing for like ADD or autism, because I feel like some of the symptoms that I have, I'm very high functioning, but I mask a lot. And otherwise I'd be stammering, and I have one thought and then I trail off and then hop into another. So this is what I'm going to do. I want to talk about a book that's been transforming my life in so many ways and so many good benefits coming out of it. So The Body Keeps the Score. I finished this. It took me a month. And look how many annotations that I have, or marks, whatever you want to call them, the stickies. I'm having a lot of deep shame trauma from early childhood happening again because of this book, and I'm not blaming the book at all. Reading about some of the patient cases, especially about the incest and SA happening before age of 7. He mentions several patients, and I mean, this book has been absolutely this book has been illuminating and elucidating so many things for me, and I broke down very often in this book. And I also had a lot of delayed traumatic experiences where I might read a chapter and then I'm thinking about the book, and then out of nowhere, it's just like I collapse to the ground. I have all those experiences happening again, and it's really hard to describe. But for me, my very early childhood trauma, the most severe period was probably age 3. I say probably because I don't know exactly when it started. It could be age 4 to age 8. That's when the SA happened, incest. And looking back to when I do talk therapy with my counselor, who I love so much, and she's very forthright and direct, and she told me, this is a limitation of my training and expertise. You really need to go see a somatic therapist, a sex therapist. And so I'm on a couple wait lists to get to a good therapist to help me with body therapy, basically touch therapy. And as I'm working and taking the lessons from this book, I've been having the same type of nightmares I would have when I was a little girl. One in particular that I hate dreaming, but it happened 2 weeks ago. It's in black and white, where my abuser, I kill him in my dream with a pair of scissors, with metal scissors, like those old shears that you have from back when. And I feel so angry, rage. I mean, that's something about early childhood trauma, is that you feel this inner rage and you're almost scared of yourself. How I feel like I could be Carrie from the movie. Like, that's the extent of rage I feel towards this abuser. And in that dream, I kill him, but there's like fear, trepidation. I'm shivering, I'm cold, my hands are shaking, heart is racing, but at the same time, I'm exhilarated that I've defeated this monster. But this monster opens his eyes and he's bleeding out from his chest, where I stabbed him with the scissors, and he's on the ground, but he smiles and his eyes open and he chuckles, like, and this monster says, "You think you can kill me? Well," and he's just kind of like mocking me and jeering at me, and I am effing scared for my life, and I start running. And the thing is, this turns into a chasing dream where he comes to look for me. He goes on a frantic search he tells me, "Well, because you try to kill me and you didn't realize that you can't kill me, I'm going to come and kill you." And so that's my nightmare that I've used to dream a lot about. And of course, with the psychological trauma, it came mostly from my mom, because she did abandon, neglect me. The caretaker who I wanted love and comfort and reassurance that I'm safe, she didn't give that to me. And she didn't give me a lot of food either. I went hungry off it. I only got to eat when everyone in my family was home. But otherwise, like, sometimes I would get rice with water and a slice of Kraft single cheese, and that would be like my breakfast lunch to tide me over until everybody came home after work. Like, my dad would come home from work. But anyways, yeah, so I've been grappling between my central nervous system feeling all of this. At the same time, the thing is, like, intellectually, I know how to cope with this. I've been able to survive this long without having fallen into drugs, prostitution, being sex trafficked, like selling my body, becoming promiscuous. In fact, I turned completely the opposite. I completely shut off and I dissociate. And that's where I've been. You know, when I was in Canada, I needed to find a trail just to be out there and just distract myself. Being in a social setting with a lot of people gives me intense anxiety. I try to almost like force myself into environments that make me very uncomfortable as a way for me to desensitize myself. It's like a form of self-care and self-therapy. But I always had to counter that by being alone. And I like being in nature. And hearing water always feels very cleansing for me. But of course, I also have attempted to unalive myself. I had my suicide obsession since I was 7 years old. Attempted when I was 9 by hanging myself from a tree. There's a story there. I don't feel like telling today. And I attempted again when I was 22. And the only thing that really saved me, I would have probably attempted a third time. I was thinking about it, maybe when I was 23. But the reason why I'm here, and this kind of answers the question from a viewer in the last video. I don't think I'm running away from something or trying to find meaning or purpose. Because this guy, the love of my life, my son, Peter, gave me my purpose, my meaning. He saved my life. He passed away at the age of 17 years, 2 months and 9 days, 2 years ago. And I feel like I'm still dealing with some grief, and generally I don't cry. Like, it's gotten a lot better. First year since his passing, I was just crying pretty much every day. But I feel a lot better. I can manage it. Time does help. And so I know that my meaning and purpose on this earth was to be his mom. And that's what I carry with me every day. I think what I'm searching for, because now this is going into what the highlight of this year has been for me. The psychedelic experience with the psilocybin, or psilocybin, however you say it, has been the single most transformative thing that's happened. I had a great trip. It was emotional, where I was confronted with the deepest buried shame and trauma, the experience, the events that happened, what happened to my body, what happened to my soul. And that's when I realized, it happened so early on in my life. It all started so young in my life that I actually never got to develop a self. You know, normal households, if you grew up in a more or less a normal, quote unquote, normal household, you actually develop healthier, secure attachment. Your worldview is entirely different. My brain is wired in such a way to default to survival because everything and everyone is a threat. And that's what I've been able to identify. I can intellectualize, so these are the coping mechanisms that'll help me get through day to day and help me be a high-functioning adult and mask so well that no one could ever detect that I had such severe abuse growing up. But, I mean, no pun, literally, the body does not keep the score. And explains why, aside from my avoidant attachment style, which comes from my mother's abandonment and neglect of me, emotionally she was just not available. And, you know, she's the one who said very cruel things to me since I was a little girl. And I think I became even more fascinated with unaliving myself and more keen and obsessed and I don't know how to pronounce it, desirous? Yeah, I guess desirous to unalive myself when I hit puberty really early, and it's probably because of my early childhood SA. And she was so disappointed that I would stop growing. And to her, all the physical markers of success that entails a successful life is like being tall, being more as white as possible, or in appearance or in attitudes and lifestyle beliefs and stuff like that. So 4th grade, finding out that I hit puberty, I was 9.5 or 10. It was like, my birthday is in March, so I have a pretty early birthday. So I don't remember if I was still 9.5 or I was 10. But when she found out, the look on her face, the disappointment, and almost like disdain, I think is the best word I can describe it. And her saying, oh, your life is over. You're not going to have a good job. You're going to be poor. you're not going to live better than how we're living. You're not going to have any good job prospects. No one will want you, romantically or otherwise. Like, my fate is sealed to be like a hermit forever. And it's come true, more or less. But at the same time, I've already developed by then my avoidant attachment style. My cold, callous, distant, disconnected, dispassionate feelings, or the lack thereof, is really from earlier when I was used to want comfort from her. And I had this inexplicable hatred, rage towards my dad since I was since I was like 4 or 5 years old. I just wanted him away from me. And just looking back, as I have had my therapy sessions, all the signs were there for SA. And I can't even believe her as a mother when I would point it out, especially during like bath time, 4 or 5 years old. She didn't even want to investigate. She didn't care. And I think when I made attempts to hold her hand, get close to her, touch her, and she would just shove me away or just brush me off and tell me, like, don't bother me, like, and don't do this, like, to people, like, you're being a burden. So I developed my independence and hyper self-reliance very early on. And something I didn't realize until even a few years ago is I probably have a very deep self-hatred, even though I put up a front of having that bravado, gusto, confidence, assertiveness in a professional setting. It's a persona that I've plucked off of someone I admire and I emulate. But beneath that is like a trembling, well, I mean, she's kind of already dead. When I was on a mushroom trip, what I saw was landscape that looked like Mars, but it reminded me more of the hellscape from the movie Constantine. And it's just black, reddish background. The entire atmosphere is black and red and thick, hot air. And I saw me, my 4 or 5-year-old body, all tethered up, scratched up, mutilated. And I have like this sheath over me, like I'm wearing a sheath, like a t-shirt, large t-shirt size that's all torn up and dirty. And I saw my mom and dad actually take my body to discard in this middle of this barren desert. That's what I saw during my trip. And that's when it hit me. I've had that aha moment, that revelation. The reason I felt this weird hollowness and forever being floating in the air and not really here is I never developed a self. I don't have a self. If anything, I think what I've been grappling with the past couple weeks is questioning myself. Why am I like this? And like, what are the things and what am I? And I realized that I'm basically a mosaic of symptoms of early childhood trauma. And something that Dr. van der Kolk says, and he did an interview recently with Diary of a CEO that I recommend everybody to go watch. I'm going to link it in my video below, is that early childhood experiences form or determine who you are. That's almost verbatim. It's something along those lines. And by the way, if I'm stammering, I'm so sorry, but this is how I actually speak. If I'm ever talking very coherently without stuttering or breaks, know that I have to do excessive mental exercises before I speak. But if I would just free flow speak, I tend to stammer and trip up a lot. And I get lost in thoughts like this. Okay, well, I don't know what the hell I was just thinking about. Okay, What was I just talking about? Okay, yeah, he talked about trauma. Early childhood trauma determines who you are. And that goes back to my feeling like I'm just a mosaic of symptoms of a child who is trying to survive. And going back to what the commenter said, I'm not running away. Rather, I'm trying to build myself. Literally build a bear. My whole channel is a Build a Bear studio for people who have no sense of self. Yeah, so my life is a big exercise in trying to figure out ways to heal and repair. And I've come to accept that I may never be healed. I may never have my avoidant attachment style be resolved well enough that I could be a high functioning adult to form normal relationships. So, I mean, I'm kind of envious of other avoidant attachment style people who can still have relationships, partners, because I don't have the capacity or the capability to do that. The reason why I need to see a touch and somatic therapist is because I actually feel physical repulsion, disgust, nausea, and I will vomit at any show of like interest in me or someone who wants to get to know me, or if I have to be more vulnerable, face to face, what would I say? Yeah, so that's explains why I've always had trouble dating and why I've dumped or turned down every single guy who has approached me, even really like nice people. And when I told them it's really not your fault, it's so cliche, but it literally is not their fault. It's really something wrong with me. And that's something I know, being a woman, cis woman, I accept that there is sometimes nobody for some bodies. The proverb or the maxim that, oh, there's somebody for everybody, isn't true. Or both could be true. There's somebody for everybody, but actually, no, that's a contradiction. That makes no sense. The truth is that there are no bodies for some bodies, and I may be one of those people. So if you're also somebody who experienced early childhood trauma, and you're really struggling, and that trauma has also influenced you to become like a dismissive avoidant style, I want to just share a best practice that helps me when I suddenly get my body just freezes and tenses up, which is something that I do with my therapist when I am recounting and I'm telling her, about my past. When it gets too difficult, we do a self-soothing exercise of just like rubbing our chest. I rub my chest. I'm sorry if it's making noise on the mic, and then I pat myself like a mom would do to a child. And then I iterate, you're okay, you're safe. I am here to comfort you. I love you. You are safe. You are safe. Your abusers are not around. They can't hurt you. They won't hurt you. You are safe. And I do that for like a good minute or two, and it does really help. So I want to share that with you in case you feel sometimes so stifled and suffocating, like I don't know what to do to shake this off. It tends to help me. And another thing is to do some breathing exercises, which is to just be in a reposed, like lay down and be completely relaxed head to toe, releasing every part of your body so that you're sinking into the surface that's supporting you. Or just be in a sitting position, like a meditation sitting position, with your back straight, erect, and at the same time, relax your neck and shoulders. Feel a lightness in your head and just inhale through your nose. Filling up your chest cavity, the back of your back, your belly. Feel it down to your thighs, and then hold and suspend a little bit. Then exhale through your mouth. And exhale very steadily. Don't force it out all at once. Let it kind of stream out your mouth. And it should be longer than your inhale. And if it's not a problem. But do that about 5 to 7 times, maybe even 10. That really helps me to just not remember what was stressing me out. And of course, at the same time, we are focusing on your breath the whole time. And I have to say, the reason why I'm making this video today is because there was a comment in my last video where, like, I had to actively self-regulate because it was such a triggering comment. It just, for some reason, I heard it in my mom's tone, even though she doesn't speak English that well. But it's like, oh, these are the type of people I would definitely avoid in real life. And let me just say, I respect your right and you're entitled to your opinion. And yeah, and I can control what I can control, which is my own reaction to it. And initially I wanted to reply. I did put a reply, but then I deleted it because I'm like, why am I like trying to explain myself like I owe this person something? I'm not obligated to explain myself. And also, like, how presumptuous this person is to think that they know better than me, or like they know everything about my life. My life is not the Truman Show. In fact, YouTube creators don't owe you anything. Other creators share what they want to share, and that's their right. It's their creative liberty to disclose however much they want about themselves. And so when they write all these comments, and then like the very part about my video there when I talked about how a user in the past video commented, worry is the advance interest you pay for events that may never come. Like, I love that. And that's exactly what this view in the last video commenter did not do, which is worrying about a hypothetical event that didn't happen. The outcome wasn't bad. My cat likes to shut doors. Even if I put a wedge in it, I bought door stoppers. She plays with it, it loses it, and whatever. The night that I left, not the night, but the very early morning that I left for Canada, I put rolled cardboard because I didn't want to spend $6 every week trying to replace a freaking door stopper. I've used socks, clean socks. I roll it up, cloth, whatever, and it was jarred open. I also had a spare litter box in there. And this little girl also likes to turn on the faucet and drink water. If anything, I'm really glad that she didn't turn on the water for 36 hours, because then I can't imagine what my water bill would have been. And it's like presumptuous of you to think that I would even go on long trips. There's a reason why all my trips are only one night long, because I know that I should be coming back home to make sure that they're okay, that my cats are okay. I've never taken a trip longer than 2 nights and not boarded them in a cat luxury hotel that I typically will spend like $100 a night for, just to have them boarded and in a secure place where I can watch them through a security camera. So anyways, I just wanted to address that. I really like people who are focused on solutions, like, hey, don't forget to wedge the door next time. Perfect. You assume that I didn't do that already. Okay, a little bit presumptuous of you. But, it's always a good reminder. Lesson learned for me too. I need to figure out a different mechanism to keep the door ajar, because my clever little girl will figure out a way to take it out or play with it and lose it, whatever. I mean, at this point, I'm even thinking, should I just take off the bathroom door off the hinge so that there's no door to the bathroom? Like, that's how far, to an extent, I'm willing to go. But again, this is not my apartment. I mean, this is not my house. It's an apartment. So I don't want to take a door off the door hinges. I simply don't know where the hell I would put it anyway. I don't have enough storage. And so, this is just like my advice and my thoughts, I would say. Not really my advice, but just my thoughts to people who encounter critics like this, is that it says to me more about themselves, where they need to exert a sense of superiority, and like they know more than you do, and that they think probably you're dumb and they're definitely inferior to them, that they need to insert themselves and clutch their pearls and pontificate and then worry over things that aren't even real. Because the comment was like, oh, but what would have happened if you'd have been gone for like 5 nights? The outcome would have been worse. That didn't happen. So let's not talk about things that aren't real. And this, why it was so triggering is because this ties into why I haven't told my mom I've been laid off. I've actually gone no contact with her. I've asked her to not stop contacting me because she is the source of my trauma. And whenever I have to engage with her, it causes me so much stress and anxiety because she adds no value. She adds no value to my life. If I tell her that I've been laid off, the first thing she's going to do is, oh my God, what are you going to do? Why are you not looking for a job? And she would be relentless. She would be up in my business every single day, not just once, but maybe 2 to 3 times. Hey, are you okay? Are you looking for a job? Do you have any interviews? What are you doing? Why are you not looking as hard? And things that actually pisses you off and does nothing actually materially better for your life, not even for your own mental health. So I cut ties with her. I told her stop contacting me. And if anything, she's the reason why I've probably been pushed to unalive myself a couple times, or tried to. And so, I've been doing this exercise the past like 5 years where I just cut people out of my life that have been absolutely detrimental. And maybe I should move my car because the sunlight is. Sorry for the lighting coming in and out. So basically, to those type of people, learn to exercise to just shut it. It's not your place. Like, I know there are better ways that people could be living, but it's not my place to tell them how to live. I don't. When I go on like the subreddit for cat advice and cats, and people talk about how they have 1 litter box for 3 cats and they're very happy. Ooh, sorry. I'm gonna move my car. Maybe I should just shut my thing. Maybe this will help. Sorry, I'm gonna close my moon roof so that maybe the lighting will be better. But if the lighting is bad, I do apologize. I realize that there aren't many parking spots left. So, basically, the way I deal with critics is, I process this and I just deleted a comment. I was like, there's no reason for me to explain to her. I did wedge the door and I never leave the house more than one night. I leave the cats alone. I have 3, I'm like, girl, stop. You owe this person nothing. If anything, this says more about them. Look at that behavior. I think this is why I was very well liked as a people leader. And it's making me want to go back into maybe becoming director of operations or even the VP of operations. So I've been looking at some of those roles. I know that I was a cool boss. I was a boss that other people, like frontline employees, would try to maneuver their career moves to move on to my team and actively tell me, I want to come to your team, because they knew I was a cool boss. I was able to help them upskill and get promoted and stuff like that. And I have an ethos where as long as you're meeting your KPIs, and we'll always set KPIs in accordance after we have conversations of what's good for the business and what's also manageable for the employee or my direct report. But if you have meetings, you're done at noon, and you're on track to finish work for whatever you need to do for the rest of the week, get the F out. Go live your life. Go meet your friend. Go run your grocery errands. I don't care. I don't care that you only work 3 hours today. There will be a day you're going to probably need to work 10 to 12, but today's not that day. And I say, go have fun. And of course, this doesn't apply to every job. I've always worked in tech, SaaS in particular. When I managed the team at the FANG, I was in AI machine learning, had 55 people under me. where I had 3 team managers and 3 program managers as my direct reports. So anyways, yeah, Director of Operations or VP of Ops is something I am considering of going back into. 2024 has been an interesting year, mostly positive. Like I mentioned, the highlight has been my psychedelic experience. It's really helped me to really jumpstart my self-learning, self-discovery, self-healing process, and opening my heart and mind a lot more than I've ever done before. And this YouTube channel is a perfect example of that. It's one manifestation or specimen, an example of what I'm trying to do to put myself out there, but also usher in lessons, life lessons, opportunities to learn. I think for 2025, I don't have any particular plans. And by the way, I have so many side projects that are in stealth mode that I don't share on this channel at all. As I mentioned, like what you see is not everything. I'm not the Truman Show. I always have a laundry list of things to do. I have to do so much context switching that it has felt like work in the past 4 weeks. One of the things that I do share is my PMP certification. I need to finish that training. I've done already about 25%. Maybe it's only 20%. But I need to get that done. I probably have like 28-ish hours to go. I don't know. I gotta check. Something about this ties into the talk about early childhood traumas. I struggled academically where I have a hard time listening to instructions when people talk. I literally have like a divorce between hearing auditory stimulus and attaching meaning to it. So when I am doing something, someone talks to me, all I hear is just sound. I don't hear meaning. So I'll often say, excuse me, what? Can you repeat that? And sometimes I feel like I am hard of hearing because I don't catch what people say. But after like psychoanalyzing and combing it through, I realized that when I paid attention of how I'm receiving sound and how I'm processing the language, and I realized that there is a lapse between when I hear a sound and when I am attaching meaning so that I understand what's being said. So I've always, now thinking back to my, like, all my education, I remember just like being so exhausted because I had to force myself to really pay attention. Sometimes I'm like deer in headlights and paying attention to the professor, not blinking, because I had to really physically exert myself to actively engage my brain to listen and learn. And my grades were good enough, obviously. I think it was really my personal essay that helped me get into UCLA. And then at UCLA, I really struggled. I was not ready for college. And my grades were everywhere. If anything, the reason why I'm so glad I did take breaks when I needed it, but my grades were just like everywhere. And I think looking back, I was so shameful. I was ashamed of myself. But when I look back today, my grades were especially the first 3 years when it was just everywhere. It was an indicator of something is seriously wrong. How is someone getting 2 A's and a D and an F? F in a dance course, D in like Korean history, A in like European, a Hungarian social political dynamic, in the post-Cold War era or something like that. I'm getting an A in there and then A in like Russian history or something. So I was literally everywhere. My attendance was spotty. Some classes I didn't attend at all, and I didn't even show up for the finals or the midterms, and that's how I failed. I needed to take a break, and that's when, we were always on the verge of eviction. My dad became unemployed, and this is going to tie into a recent video that I've watched. And then I've been binge watching a lot of sex trafficking, early childhood abuse, victim, survivor stories because I find them to be so cathartic and like hopeful for me that I am not a lost cause to myself. And so the Soft White Underbelly, I've been binge watching, and the last one I watched, I'll link it below. And I think it's worth your time. If you have a couple hours to spare, or hour and a half, watch it. This guy's story is incredible, gut-wrenching. And he developed what he described in terms of what's happening to his brain, to his body, and his attachment style, and also his actual background of abandonment and neglect. And the essay, early childhood essay, mirrored what I went through, and that's why his story just so resonated with me. So go, feel free to check that out now or after this video. I don't want to make this too long, but basically, going to the new year, I have a lot of stuff in stealth, and my goal, and I do believe in setting not necessarily goals, but nice to haves. That way I don't pressure myself to feel like I didn't check everything off, so I must be a loser and I feel really badly. No, I just have some nice to haves, which is to be able to get back into shape, maybe lose 10 pounds and gain some muscle so that my cholesterol goes down. My blood pressure is already low and manageable through meditation, so that's fine. But I have I do have high glucose levels in my blood, so I need to be careful to not become pre-diabetic. So I think weight loss is going to help me there. So that's a nice to have. Another nice to have is, I don't know. I'm going to change the lighting. Okay. Okay, so I changed. I hope that's better. Okay. And, something that I didn't want to talk about is, like, I'm kind of shameless in the way that I'm talking about all of this, and it's because I'm 42. It's taking me this long, so I do want to, like, talk to the Gen Z and younger millennial audience who may have very similar backgrounds to me and who feel absolutely powerless and stuff like that. Okay, never mind. I thought this guy was coming up to talk to me, but never mind. I want you to know that there's no perfect timing of when you're going to find out or decide to start to heal yourself. It starts with, I think, recognition, identification, and brutal honesty. It's even like you keep secrets from yourself because it's so harmful and damaging. And it's so... it breaks you down, and the feeling where you lose all the life and strength in your limbs and you just collapse to the floor like you're some rag doll. I know that happens to me every now and then. And in my experience, even though when I think everything is going gung-ho, everything is great, I feel fine, at least at the psychological, intellectual level, like, oh, I'm coping, I'm doing fine. I will have these random ass moments where I just get hit. It all comes to the surface like this. It feels like sewage coming back up, and you are met with it again, and it's not really a memory. And that's the thing, that if you come from a normal, healthier household, by normal I mean more or less, like you didn't grow up with severe trauma, you're not... Trauma, as Dr. van der Kolk, his research and the research he cites show, trauma is not a memory. Memory is wired differently and stored differently in our brains. Trauma is actually not even a reliving. It's the actual, he says the past is actually the present. So it's new for the first time again. And I think that's why we say re-traumatize, but I think it's... I wish there was a better word. It is a new trauma of an old trauma. It's I think what I can call, maybe a better way to describe it is, it is trauma that you had in the past resurrected in full form. And that's what happens in the most random times. Collapse, crying, crawl into a crumpled ball on the floor, wherever you are. and you feel the gut, the knot, the tension, the shivering, the cold sweat, the wailing, crying, pain. And so if you go through this, I'm with you, I know. But it does and can get better. Another thing that van der Kolk mentions that is very important, I think, for other people, like healthier people, to realize is that early childhood trauma is more deep, more intense, more stubborn, resistant to care and therapy than an adult onset. So SA as an 18 or 20-year-old, that's horrible. That's going to leave you with some horrible, horrible scars that may take decades to deal with. But evidence shows that early childhood trauma is even more deeply embedded. So it becomes your identity. I think that's another way that I can put it, is that, so that's very challenging. And that's why I highly encourage people to go watch Diary of a CEO, the interview with Dr. van der Kolk. He mentions that early childhood trauma imprints more deeply, and so people who suffer from early childhood trauma, especially early childhood SA, are more resistant to therapy, and I found that. So even though I say the psychedelic trip was the most eye-opening, transformative experience of the year, it's fading. The positive effects, I thought my depression was all gone. It was, more or less. And I still feel remnants of that high and feeling good and seeing good in the world. But just in the past month, I think I realized that, nope, I've fallen like 2 steps back because of my trauma happening again. I'm running out of battery, so I want to wrap this up really quickly. I wanted to also share with you something I hope that I can turn your attention to if you're really feeling like you're in a rut and you're stuck and you're really hopeless. I read this book, Into the Magic Shop, by Dr. James Doty. He's a neurosurgeon at Stanford. And the full title is A Neurosurgeon's Quest to Discover the Mysteries of the Brain and the Secrets of the Heart. It's his story of beating the odds and how he was able to manifest the life he wanted through deep meditation. And the practices he talks about, his story here, I started doing the same thing in 2019. I quit my job. Well, I was doing it before I quit my job. I was quitting my job as a chief of staff and IT project manager in early spring. Was it early spring? No, in late spring, mid-spring. But at the start of the year, I started doing the candlelight visualization manifestation, and I do credit this book for helping me catapult from 2019 to 2022, so roughly, I'd say 2.5 years, I bumped up my base salary by $70,000. I went from making like the median salary to making top 10, top 15 salary range. So, and by the way, if I'm talking all choppy too, I'm running out of energy and I want to finish my coffee and head back home and edit this video. I am now reading Mind Magic. It's by Dr. James Doty again. And this is actually really helpful because I think each chapter comes with an exercise that you can do. So if there's one thing that I'm doing for sure in 2025 is doing the candlelight meditation again, because I did stop doing it after 2020. And I think this layoff, honestly, I manifested it. I had been longing for the past 1.5 years for some deep period of rest. And this is why, and saying to myself, just save enough money to last you a good length of time, a year or more, so that you can actually be in a good spot. The thing that I didn't think about is what happens afterwards. So, and another reason why I'm not going to tell my mom that I've been laid off is because she's really going to harangue me and pester me every single day saying, oh my God, you're not finding a job. You must be a loser. What are you going to do? You're going to run out of money. You're going to be homeless. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And, Chicken Little, sky is falling, world is ending. Oh my God. What if this happens? What if that happens? What are you going to do? Absolute worst case scenario. And also, another thing that my mom would do, have you tried this? Have you tried that? You need to do this. You need to do that. I heard somebody, my friend's daughter or son did this. Da, 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 da. Like, people who insert their advice and like who insert themselves into your world and like give advice when you didn't ask for it, and who also don't have the same life experience as you, don't live in the same generation as you, and are not sympathetic or empathetic to what you're going and knowing when or how to give you space. And people who lack the wherewithal and the self-awareness to know that they're not being helpful. In fact, they're the exact type of people that other people should avoid. Make sure that if you have someone like that, you are really weaning off contacting them and trying to get them out of the picture in your life. They're not going to be a value add. They're going to actually hold you back, because they're going to forever be that little inner voice that actually limits yourself. So, and even if that's your own mother, I find it absolutely imperative for your own well-being and long-term success. Going back to the book, I'm in chapter 2, so I literally just started this about 2 days ago. I'm already loving it. I started doing my candlelight visualization, manifestation, meditation, whatever you want to call it. And I think his book is really important to help people understand who misinterpret what manifestation is. It's not just relying on and hoping for an external force to bring you good things in your life. It's really about when you actually do these meditations, it transforms the wiring in your brain and the energy that you embody, that impacts and influences you to behave in certain ways that attract, produce certain connections and opportunities and actions that you take that lead you to where you want to be. So my meditations in 2019 was specifically, I want to work at a high-tech company, one of the big ones. I want to manage global teams, and I want to make well over $100,000. And check, check, check. That all happened in a span of less than 1 year. I do feel that there's a correlation, or I do believe that there's a proportionality of just how intensely you are able to meditate and enter the trance and the production of the outcome. And so if you're interested in exploring that, I really welcome you to start with like Dr. Doty's book, Into the Magic Shop. And then actually it really doesn't matter. This is actually really good as well, Mind Magic. But these are wonderful additions to your bookshelf if you haven't already read them. Final parting words for the year. Forgive yourself for the little mistakes that you made. It didn't end the world. It didn't end your life. You're still here. You're loved. The world loves you. I love you. I want you to have great health, and I want you to prioritize your inner well-being. Whenever you make decisions, always ask, how is this going to impact me now? And am I going to still feel good and okay 6 months from now, 12 months from now? Another thing, ignore the detractors, your haters, your critics. As I mentioned, if you find that they like to insert themselves in your life and just want to take the limelight and make you feel bad and drag you down, that says more about them than it does about you, whatever they're saying. They have probably a need to feel more superior to others. They have an issue with their own insecurities, and they want to project that onto you. So try to wean off communicating with them. Try to distance yourself. If not, just cut them out. And remember that there are over 8 billion people on this earth. What is one voice being so critical of you, so judgmental of you, going to do? Don't give so much power to that one voice, because they want to be significant. And you have the power to give it significance or render it insignificant. Those are my thoughts. This was really long. I got to finish my coffee, and I know it's going to make me go number 1 and number 2, so I'm going to go head back home. Bye. Happy New Year.